Howdy folks, Little John, and once again it's Survival on Friday, and today get a little bit of support from the bit of homemade Scotch style whiskey. Now this is actually made from remnants of the cheap kit beer experiment homebrew lager brew a while back. Yeah, didn't come out too well, so I turned it into a whiskey. Much better use for it, I believe. Anyway, today's topic. I've got a brew day happening on Sunday. It's unusual. Normally I brew on a Friday, but today on Sunday I was trying to get a couple of local fellas together from the home brew club, which has never really managed to kick off real well locally. Sort of hasn't been much going about, but I am having a catch up with hopefully two of the guys on Sunday. So I'm going to run a brew through, and I needed to get a bit of stuff for that. Doing a smoked porter, and I needed some smoked malt, so I had to order some that I don't know. It's not something I have sitting around. And I ordered a few other things. I've got I'm doing a brewed IPA coming up, probably the brew after this one, and I needed to get a little bit of stuff for that as well. So I've made that order. It's turned up this morning, and that order's just had me thinking as I was going through it just a little bit earlier, and has got me focused on this topic. Now, what initially started me with this one is I said I needed to get some flaked corn and some flaked rice for the brut IPA. Now I do have flaked corn here, but I've got it enough set aside for my next bourbon match, so I wanted to get some more. I do have plans, but I wanted to do it properly with the flaked corn as per the the style guidelines. And I also had to get some smoked malt for the porter on this weekend. So I went online and to one of my normal suppliers, and I went through and did the order. Now I ordered up what I needed, and it wasn't until about 2 days later when I got an email. Well, it might have even been sort of the next day. I'd done it in the evening. I got the email the next morning confirming the order. Thank you very much, and I had a list of the stuff. And instead of having the smoked malt, I had an extra bag of flaked corn. So I had the one bag put in my cart, had the flaked rice here, and then further down the list was another flaked corn and no smoked malt. So I had stuffed up, and I think what had happened was there was several options for smoked malt, and the one that I decided I wanted to go with, which I believe was a mesquite smoked malt. When I went to put it in the cart, it was sold out. It wasn't available, so I had to go back. So I then had to go through for another malt. And somehow in the process, I probably got interrupted doing other things. Could have even been dinner in between. And somehow I've ended up ordering 2 lots of flake corn and not a smoked malt of any kind. So given this stuff's coming in shipping and I'm paying shipping on this stuff, I then had to turn around and buy another kilo of smoked malt, which meant I was paying extra shipping up front, and yeah, it cost me more money than I really needed to, which was a pain in the ass. Now, I could have avoided that by just simply being a little bit more careful with what I was doing, and double checking the order, you know, a bit more thoroughly before I actually sent it off. Now, I normally am pretty thorough and make sure I have got everything, but yeah, I missed it. So as I said, I've had to go and buy the malt elsewhere. So in the process of buying the malt, I then ended up buying a little bit extra, and so what should have cost me somewhere around, you know, $35, $40 ended up costing me closer to 60. I did pick up an extra pack of yeast, but it was just a pain in the ass. But this is like the tip of this whole, you know, buyer beware thing. Make sure you're aware of, really check what it is that you're buying. But the main thing, like I said, that was a bit of an inconvenience. But what got me thinking as I was going through this stuff from this order, and really got me set on this buyer beware thing, was the hops. Now, these orders come from National Home Brew. Now, I'm not recommending, I'm not affiliated with anybody. This is just the supplier I use. I use plenty of suppliers. It's just what I was using for this order, because they had particularly what I wanted. I've got 3 hops. I've got some Mosaic, Columbus, and some Tenniel hops just to boost up what I've already got. Now, and it's got me feeling I hadn't sort of thought about it. The Centennial's 2018 crop, yeah, so it's current. But the Columbus and the Mosaic is from 2017. Now, I've bought plenty of stuff from National Home Brew, and I'm very confident that their hops are well treated and looked after and stored, you know, in an appropriate way to keep them healthy. But it got me thinking about this, the dating, and what the reason I've really thought about it was a couple of weeks ago. Someone was asking on one of the forums about where they could get a particular kind of hop, because it was getting hard to find, and it may have been Mosaic, and someone popped up a link to a site that was selling Mosaic at a reasonably good price, not super cheap or anything, but at a good price. And I went and had a look at it, because at that point I knew I was going to need to be buying some more Mosaic. I've never really used it before, and I've just sort of discovered it in the last sort of couple of months on 1 or 2 brews. So I wanted to get these hops up a bit more. And when I went into the site and looked into it a little bit more, the Mosaic was actually from like 2011. It was ridiculously old. Now, keeping hops in good storage and under good conditions, you know, you can keep them at a good level for quite a while. But, you know, 2011 crop, so it's been made in, you know, 2012. So it's 7 years old. I don't care how well you've kept it. I'm not paying close to full price for 7-year-old hops. Not a hope in hell. Now, what you're finding quite often, you see a lot, and this is where I'm saying you need to keep your wits about you and have your eyes open and be sure of what you're doing. Plenty of places sell hops and don't have any dates on them. They don't tell you when they are, when they're from. you know, what year they were, whether they're current. And as a buyer, we tend to just assume that you're getting that it's current stuff that's from last season, but that's very often not the case, particularly with very popular hops, Galaxy, you know, Citra, Mosaic, even, you know, Columbus, some of the newer varieties. You know, it can be very difficult to get current stock because it's getting eaten up by commercial breweries. So the supply that's available to the home brewer can be a bit patchy. So sometimes you'll end up with last year's stuff that's left over from last season, you know, that didn't get used, or, you know, was put away and, you know, it didn't end up getting sold. And that's what you can get, and that can flow on. So it's not uncommon, as I see with this Mosaic and Columbus, for those popular hops to be at least an extra season old. Now, as I said again, I've got no problem if that's from a reputable supplier who does, you know, it keeps them well. And sometimes it can be hard to know exactly who they are. Some of them will tell you, like, you know, our hops are vacuum packed and they're kept in the freezer, or they're kept in cold storage. Brew shops tend not to make a fuss about the fact they keep their hops in a cupboard on the shop floor, if that's what they do, because you don't want to know that, so they don't tell you. They aren't always kept, you know, in good condition, so you need to be a little bit careful. So always have a good look at your hop, and then management, even at your local shop. Ask them if they're not labelled when what season they're from. Where are they from? Check out how they're keeping them. If they're not keeping them in at least the fridge, and they're not, you know, reasonably current, as in the last 2 seasons, go elsewhere. Hops are too important and too expensive in your beer to go out and buy bad quality ones for the sake of a few dollars. Hops aren't cheap, but at the end of the day, you can get them online from decent suppliers for only a few dollars more per 100 grams than what you will, you know, potentially picking them up locally. It's not worth it. So always checking that sort of stuff. Grain's not such an issue, but again, avoid buying it milled if you can. Buy it fresh. Other thing, and it's what it's got me thinking, is I also, in the orders, had this fella turn up. Now, Yeast and White Labs, and there's more available now. You've got Giga Yeast and the Empire Yeast. Any of these liquid yeast have quite short effective lifespans, and a lot of suppliers will not give you the dates that these packs are being packed on, so you don't know how old they are. I've been caught out where I've bought from a supplier and like I've put it on the premises, on the spot, and I've walked out and the yeast was already, you know, 3.5 months old. So effectively very, very minimal healthy cells, and wasn't gonna be a pain. I didn't have to go make, you know, multi-step starter to get it going, which doesn't worry you if you know that. And look, this fella, this comes from another one of a supplier I don't use a hell of a lot, but I do like for certain, and that's Craft Brewer. Yeah, I end up getting my smoked malt from Craft Brewer. Craft Brewer was actually the first supplier I ever used when I stepped into grain. It was the first place I ever found online, and they were really good. They were really helpful. My second order got muddled up and got lost, and after a few phone calls in a few days, they fixed it and sent me a little extra bag of hops free of charge to make it, but they've always been good to deal with, and their product is always really good quality. And they always list their dates. Every yeast they sell, it's clearly marked what dates they are. And the reason I do like to use craft brew is because they do have those dates, and they do discount. And I go for it, and I've discussed this before on different videos. I'll go for it. I'll buy older yeast, so I can use them to start in my yeast bank. This one is an example. Rocky Mountain Lager, manufactured January 2018, so last year. So it's, you know, it's 15 months old. Going to have very little cells in there, but I can work it up and get a viable starter done and use that quite happily. And I'm aware I need to do that, and I'm happy to do that. But if I'm paying full price, or the best part of full price, and I'm expecting an in-date yeast to turn up, and that's what I get, I'm not happy. So again, it's one of those things you need to be aware of. I've seen a lot of sites where, again, they don't list any dates. It's just, liquid yeast, it's $13 to $16 a packet. You don't know how old it turns up, and it's already 3 months old. And you got to make, you got to do multi-step starters to get it cells to a point where you're happy with it. And you shouldn't have to do that if that's not what you're expecting to do. So the big thing is always check out what it is you're buying. Check dates, use buys, when they were made, the crop year, how things are stored. Use reputable suppliers, or use suppliers that you've used in the past and you do get a good product from. I said there's plenty of suppliers I get good product from. It's not, I'm not a craft brewer or national home brew. And just because someone's on eBay, don't think they're dodgy or you're going to get a bad product. I've had plenty of good product of several suppliers off eBay. It's just another marketing place, but you do need to be aware that there are some dodgy ones out there. If you do find a dodgy, if you do find a supply where you get a dodgy product, just don't go there again. Try elsewhere. Sometimes it's not worth, like I said, saving the few dollars for the bad product you get. So just be careful with what you're doing. Like I said, buyer beware. Keep your eyes open and double check your ordering before you send it off to make sure you aren't missing out. If you're ordering recipes, make sure you've got everything you need for your recipe. It's nothing worse than you get your recipe out the day before Brew Day and you suddenly discover you're missing something. That's one I didn't want to mention. Chocolate malt. If you're buying chocolate malt for a recipe, particularly chocolate malt, be very careful what you're ordering and what you need. Chocolate malt will vary from around 300 EBC up to about 1200 EBC, which is the darkness, depending on the supplier and the malt start that you're actually getting it from. So there is a massive difference in what it will do in your beer if you've got if you've got a 350 pale chocolate compared to an 1100 chocolate. So make sure you know what chocolate you need and get one from the supplier that's going to match up, because every supplier will have a different one. If you can't find an actual number on what it is from a particular supplier, try to contact them or go elsewhere, because you can really make a big difference to your beer with not a lot of it if you've got your numbers way wrong for what the recipe is meant to be. Okay, that's it. Little John for the day. Got any questions, comments, stick them down the bottom as well. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And that's me, I'm going for the day. I'm going to start preparing for Big Brew Day on Sunday. So that's me, Little John. So until I see you again, We talking beer, we're brewing beer, we're drinking beer. Good brewing.